And now I'm curious, like, so what were there any unique arguments you heard during COVID, or did you come up with any unique arguments to get out of a lease because of COVID? Because I know people are talking about force
Ye-
majeure and they're talking about acts of God. Did any of that help?
Right. Not really. I think, it was a phrase that got thrown around, and it's a Latin, phrase, and people think, oh, this must work, and a very fancy thing. But I think when you looked into the detail of these force majeure provisions, especially in the leasing context, I would say almost 9 times out of 10, it was not helpful,
Okay.
right? To really get out of a lease. Now, there may be other common law remedies like frustration of purpose or impossibility that may have been better tools to negotiate out of a lease, right? But I think what we found more often than not is, everyone was very much in defensive mode very early on in the pandemic because tenant was like, my business has been shut down. I can't afford to pay rent. I've got to look out for my interest. Landlord, well, I need rent because I still have the bank that I've got to pay my mortgage to.
Right.
Right. And I'm going to enforce, I don't want to be the bad wolf, big bad wolf, but I have to enforce these terms. You have to continue to pay rent so I can service the mortgage. And equally, the bank is saying, well, I'm sorry, landlord, that you have problems with your tenants, but you are going to have to still service your loan. So what did we find really in all of this is that for all of the creative legal arguments, they more often than not, and I think certainly government intervention helped a lot with this when they started putting moratoriums in place to prevent evictions. And currently they're running through June of this year now, at least here in California. These ended up being just tools to potentially renegotiate terms out of leases rather than straight clean breaks out of leases. Certainly we saw lots of people just walk away from them, because at the end of the day they were walking away from them because they probably had nothing left anyway, and so in their mind it made sense that if I walk away, the landlord's probably not, I'm not a collectible asset at the end of the day. So for a few people, we would never advise that, but for a few people, they sort of took that decision, said it's fine for me to walk away because I have to cut my losses. But don't think really, for that matter, across the country, we've really seen any cases where force majeure has been helpful or otherwise to get out of a lease. I think there was one which was within the bankruptcy context, maybe out of Chicago, if I'm not mistaken, where there were specific, pretty unique circumstances there where it allowed a tenant to sort of not pay their rent, but it was a very unique situation. So we really haven't seen anything really in the courts that have shown that otherwise.